Move to the Horn of Africa, to conflict in northern Ethiopia. 5 months in, and the conflict in the Tigray region of the country not resolved. United Nations Children's Fund, Unicef, sounding the alarm about life for children in that region. Over 1.4 million children have been out of school for a year. There are also reports of increasing sexual violence. Let's discuss this now with senior spokesperson for Unicef in Nairobi, Kenya, James Elder. James, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. I believe you've just returned from a trip to that conflict zone in northern Ethiopia. Could you tell us what you saw and heard?
Hi, yes, I was there last week. Look, unfortunately, what I saw, Sally, is an increasing crisis unfolding for children. You mentioned 1.4 million kids out of school. All your viewers will know millions and millions of children are out of school around the world. The difference here is that they're not in the classroom, they're in a conflict setting. This conflict started in November when just as people would have been harvesting that crop for a year, giving them the food and the income for the next 12 months. They missed that. They're about to miss the chance to plant. And really good water systems and health systems have been destroyed, either destroyed in the fighting or then looted. So we're seeing education, protection, as you mentioned, terrible, harrowing stories I was told of rape of children and women. We're seeing a crisis on all fronts unfolding day in, day out for children of Tigray.
And what is the latest on the actual conflict, which involves the Ethiopian Defence Force and the Tigrayan army? What is actually happening, and why is there no way to seemingly resolve this? I mean, after all, the Ethiopian President, Ahmed Abiy, is a Peace Prize winner.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be cautious. Of course, UNICEF, what we try to do, we get to the front line, and no matter where children are in need, we seek to help them. We work in the world of aid, not in politics. But you are right, that is the conflict that started internally. Everyone now accepts that Eritrean forces were invited in by the federal government. They've been said they will leave. Everything I saw, based on uniforms or language, said that hasn't been the case. And I think we've learned time and again, yourself as a journalist or myself as an aid worker, that conflict is not a solution in these situations. So UNICEF asks that people sit down, and that whilst they're waiting to do that, that we get unfettered access, that we're at least enabled to do our job and reach those children and mums in the most need. And whilst in some ways we're doing that at the moment, we're reaching 500,000 or more people with clean water, that's life-saving, we're also seeing aid efforts hampered because of a lack of law and order.
So how many people do you estimate, and obviously it's so difficult to estimate because you don't have access to everyone, but how many people do you think are just absolutely beyond your access, and what needs to be done on the part perhaps of the international community, perhaps even politically, diplomatically, to allow greater access to help those people in need?
It's a great question on how many. I mean, we know that there's more than 1 million people displaced. Okay, and yes, for example, UNICEF may be reaching 640,000 of those with water, but we would like to reach hundreds of thousands of those with nutrition, and that's not happening. I think it's safe to say there's hundreds of thousands of people who aren't getting the support they needed, who 6 months ago probably were living in a pretty sustainable agricultural way, or in towns. Remembering what I saw in Tigray and the capital, Mekelle, you see pretty advanced, good schools, good university, good academic institutions, good hospital. The people who were in those or running those or needed those services don't have that ability right now. In terms of what needs to be done, we just need that pressure to continue to be there, and common sense to prevail, to realise that conflict is not helping anyone right now, and that at least let aid agencies reach those people. Let us make sure they've got enough food. Let us make sure we're protecting people. Let's make sure that parties to the conflict, military actors, are standing by international law. Let's be very clear and have those people in power be very clear that perpetrators of sexual violence will be held accountable, and that sexual violence in a conflict zone is a clear violation of international humanitarian law.
From your visit to the region last week, did you get a sense from the people that you spoke to that there's going to be some sort of resolution to this conflict, or could it just drag on for months and even years?
I think I certainly got a sense from those people who were trying to help that there's a sense of desperation, a real sense that they are at wit's end. You know, it's always amazing. I mean, I will always stand for what UNICEF does and how my colleagues on the ground will go selflessly, do 7 days a week and reach people. But I also never, ever forget what communities on the ground are doing. And as people, I mean, I met a 16-year-old girl who walked 300 kilometres with her baby brother on the back. 300 kilometres. And on the way, it's only communities that are helping these people. So the people themselves are desperate. Do they think there can be a settlement? I think at the moment it's what they pray for, because they know that, you know, anything other than a settlement will drag on. This will drag on. As you mentioned there, the TPLF have gone into, you know, more remote areas, and the cities might be peaceful for a moment, but there is a great risk that if you talk to political analysis or most senior United Nations officials, that this can drag on if there is not a settlement between those parties who are currently fighting.
Absolutely heartbreaking stories, but so important that we hear about it. Thank you so much, James Elder, Senior Spokesperson for UNICEF, coming to us from Nairobi in Kenya, telling us about one story of a girl who walked 300 kilometres with her brother on her back. Astonishing.